All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Likutey Moharan. We're continuing on Torah, Chaf 24. We have explained that we're dealing with an ascension, a process of ascending. The goal is that level which is beyond Ruchen and Nafshin and beyond the Neshama, beyond the Nefesh, beyond everything else. And we say you can't really get it. You can sort of like get it and not get it. Mati velo mati. So the only way that you can do that, in other words, the only way that you can start the process is by doing the mitzvahs b'simcha. Because doing the mitzvahs is the vehicle. The mitzvahs themselves are the vehicle. When you're doing it b'simcha, you are infusing the mitzvah with emunah, with enthusiasm. So at that point, what happens is that that mitzvah, because mitzvah is an alive thing, everything that exists in reality is really a combination of body and soul. So the mitzvah, the body of the mitzvah is, me doing the mitzvah, you're doing the mitzvah. And the simcha with which you do the mitzvah is the soul of the mitzvah. It's the life force of the mitzvah. So what happens is that when you do the mitzvah b'simcha, that elevates the levels of Malchus, which is busy with the lower levels of the klipot during the week. It takes the Malchus outside of that realm. And the Malchus becomes, a cloak, a clothing to the three sefirot that are above it. We're talking about Malchus, the Asiyah, the Malchus of the lowest of this world we're living in, and the next will be above it is the Netzach Hod Yesod. Netzach Hod Yesod are the legs and the Ospris Kodesh. Now, if the Malchus is the garment, as we called it, the pants, then Netzach Hod Yesod are the legs that are, you're putting the legs into the pants. So now the mitzvah has the koyach to go and awaken all the realms, all the elements. It goes up. It's a spiritual thing. It wakes everything up to avodas Hashem. So, and Rabbeinu brings a few rayas to that the kiyum mitzvahs that are written in Torah Hashem, when you're doing it b'simcha, it clothes the Netzach Hod Yesod, and it goes to awake all the worlds, all the spiritual realms to avodas Hashem. Now we're holding by Seif Daled. So that's just the beginning of the process. That's not the end of the process. Okay, now comes the mitzvah with the Netzach Hod Yesod, and they're awakening the Olamus to to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Haynu alidei alicha, that journey, that walking, that advancing, that the Netzach HaYesod are doing to wake up the world to serve Hashem, that causes the nishpas bracha l'chol ha'olamas. That brings down bounty and blessings to all the world. Because this is an automatic process where you start an enthusiasm from below, and that enthusiasm from below awakens a response from above. This is a universal principle. When a student in school has no enthusiasm to learn at all, the teacher is also, falling half asleep. That's in a good case if it doesn't get all upset. But what happens if the student is really anxious? Motivated to go and learn. I'm going now to this shir, to this whatever it is, and I'm going to really learn it. And it's a subject that I'm really interested in. And this is a teacher that I really like. And you come to class and you listen. Now, the reaction is practically automatic. Because the teacher, feels that enthusiasm. The teacher feels wanted. The teacher feels motivated. And the teacher connects with the student and teaching him and gives him a lot more than he otherwise would. He just read from the textbook, just waiting for the bell to ring. But there's a relationship going on. So when the Malchus, which is, you do the mitzvahs b'simcha, the Malchus gets out of the klipos, and now you have the clothing, you have the vehicle, and you that vehicle, the passengers, the legs get into the pants and they start walking. Start walking means they're starting to be motivated, waking up all the worlds above them to avodas Hashem. That's akin to a student that becomes, that's very motivated to learn from his teacher, which brings about, a giving from above. So when the Olamas are motivated, they're excited to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that brings bracha from above. So that bracha from above to Oila Olamas. This has also the very same way that we say that the mitzvah starts, it's not just a dead instrument, but something which is alive. It's not just a pair of pants, but it's a pair that has legs, living legs in it that are walking. Has a formula, which is, we call it the Malchus, is Malbish, the Netzach Hod Yesod. Malchus is the garment. Netzach Hod Yesod are the legs. The very same way that you put on your pants, you are dressing your legs with pants. You're clothing your legs with pants. The Malchus, it's called the Malchus, is Malbish, is clothing. The Netzach Hod Yesod. That's the professional terminology for that process. Now, that process starts becoming alive. The mitzvah now has awakened all the Olamas of Avodas Hashem. That brings about bracha. as we explained, it's a very natural kind of reaction. When the receiver wants to receive, the giver wants to give. It becomes a relationship. That also has a formula. That formula is that the Netzach Hod Yesod, they go up, they're clothing the Chesed Gvura Tiferes. That is the mitzvahs, they are the spheres that come above it. Now, that obviously the Chesed Gvura Tiferes of Olam Ha'asiyah, as we said before, we're going to explain it more when we learn the next Torah Chafei, means that the inner light of the Netzach Hod Yesod goes up and becomes a makif, the lower light of the Chesed Gvura Tiferes. Let's not get into this now. Chesed Gvura Tiferes, these are the hands. Chesed is the right hand. Gvura is the left hand. Tiferes is the body. Now, try to move your hands without your body. That's a little bit difficult. So that's why, the trunk is considered one with the hands. Shehem HaYadayim, these are the Chesed Gvura Tiferes are the hands. Shemisham HaBrachas, that's the source of all the blessings. Chesed, as we said, is the right hand. The Gvura is the left hand. Tiferes is the combination of the hands together, the thing that makes the whole system of hands work. And from them that gives down the brachas to all the elements. As we know, with the legs, you can walk. You can walk naked. You need the malchus, the garments, to cover up the legs. Right? Now, the legs are wonderful. You can get everybody excited, but you cannot carry anything. You cannot give over anything. You need the hands for that. So the Netzach Hod Yesod now are covering the Chesed Gvura Tiferes, which are the kelim of the bracha. The hands are the kelim of the blessings. This is the secret that is embedded in that supposedly, difficult to understand pasuk. When Yaakov Avinu finally came to Lavan and says, listen, buddy, I need to get paid. With all due respect, I'm married, I have children, I need to give parnassus to my house. So Lavan said, listen to this. I guessed. No, it's not an obvious thing, right? I guessed, I'm smart. I guessed that Hashem has blessed me. It says, because of you, it says, Yaakov Avinu says to Lavan, when Lavan chases him, when he goes back to Eretz Yisrael, so Yaakov says, Veivarech Hashem oischa, Hashem has blessed you, l'ragli, to my legs. And what's in it, in other words, Yaakov Avinu was zoiche to do the mitzvah with great simcha. He was zoiche to wake up all the oilamas, all the spiritual realms to avodas Hashem. And that brought down the bracha to Lavan. This is how it worked. So it means to say that v'zeh l'ragli, Hashem blessed you l'ragli, to my legs. The bracha comes down because it is awakened, is excited through the raglaim. That raglaim that wake up all the worlds to the voice of Hashem. They bring all the excitement, the motivation. So the bracha is just a response for that. So because of Ragli, Yaakov Avinu tells Lavan, because of that, because of my Ragli, my enthusiasm, the fact that I've been doing mitzvahs with tremendous simcha, that is the thing that brought bracha to you, Mr. Lavan. So nimtzo she'oli meraglaim. Now we find that the legs are going up, are ascending, and they get connected Bivchinas Yadayim, the aspect of hand. Before it was just legs, now it becomes connected with the hands, which is said Bivchinas V'telech Yad Bnei Yisrael Hoch V'kosh. Am Yisrael has defeated their enemies, and the pasuk in Shoftim says, and the hand of Am Yisrael has advanced, has walked, and became greater and more dominant and harder on their enemies. This is the hand of Am Yisrael, is the control, obviously. But it went and became more dominant, became harder on their enemies. You have a connection between the hand, Am Yisrael, that's the control. It walks, it moves, it advances, it becomes more dominant, it becomes harder. Am Yisrael defeated the enemies. What is alluded to here is what made this possible. Am Yisrael did the mitzvahs b'simcha. That created the halach, that the Yad Yisrael was a halach v'kashi. In other words, it walked, it advanced, it went on. That's the raglan connecting to the yadim. That brought down brachas to Am Yisrael. Now Rabbeinu is going to bring a raya. It's going to bring proof that the main brachas come from the yadayim. It says, "Vayisa Aaron es yodav el ha'am v'yivarchem." Aaron HaKohen carries up his hands to Am Yisrael, like the Kohen does, and he blesses them. In other words, the hands of Aaron, this is where the brachas come from. Same way, Yaakov Avinu gave the bracha to Yosef, and he says, "Midei Abir Yaakov Misham Roy Even Yisrael." In other words, in Al Pi Pshat, he says that Yosef became a ruler over the entire land of Egypt, and the ring was given, the bejeweled ring was given on the finger of Yosef. That's the signatory, that's the sign of the ruler of Mitzrayim. That bechina, Al Pi Pshat, that bechina was given to Yosef from the night of Yaakov. What is the night of Yaakov? That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is how Yosef became a shepherd of Am Yisrael. So the bracha that Yosef got, that he was zeicher to be, the shepherd, the leader of Am Yisrael, of the entire Mitzrayim, the entire ancient world at the time, it came from the bechina of hands of Kadosh Baruch Hu. That when is, Roya Even Israel, where did you become Roya Even Israel? When did you, Yosef, become the ruler of Even Israel, of both the father and the sons? Even is Avu Bnim. Midei Abir Israel, from the hands of the night of Israel, which is the Kadosh Baruch Hu. From the Bechina of Yadayim, this is where the brachas come. Now we're ready to go on. And the main blessings that come from the hands. Okay, now we understand brachas come. There was enthusiasm, it misses b'simcha, that brings bracha from the yadayim. Wonderful. Comes the question, what kind of brachas are we talking about? Some people feel that the bracha is to have a lot of money. Some people feel that the bracha is to have a lot of property. Some people feel that bracha means they have a lot of kavod, that people honor them, and so forth and so on. But Rabbeinu explains, obviously, that this is not the real bracha. The real bracha, the best stuff that you can get, the best wealth that you can get, ikar bracha shenishpoim hayadayim, the main blessing that pours from the hands, hem seichel. That's intellect, that's wisdom. As they say, das kaniso mechasat. If you don't have sense, what have you gained? You can have the entire world. If you don't have sense, what are you going to do with it? You can't even keep it. He says, in das konito mechasato, if you have das, you don't like anything. If you don't have das, if you don't have das, you don't have anything. If you have das, you have everything. Das is the main property. The das is Hashem. That's the reason why the world was created. So the biggest bounty, the biggest blessing is the seichel, is the sense, the wisdom. And when it comes down, it becomes from seichel. The seichel itself is, as it were, the raw material. V'nasim lekol echad ve'echad fi ratzonai. And it becomes, it's almost like you would say, stem cells. That these are cells that have not specialized yet. So the seichel is like stem cells. When it comes down, a person has a bracha and it comes down. Now, what does it become? What kind of cells does it, what kind of specialization does it get? It gets to each person according to what he wants. You'll open up your hands. The bracha that comes from the hands, it becomes every person according to his ratzon. That's why anybody who has a shtickle sense in his head, you should be mechaben his ratzon, train your will. The bracha that you'll get will be seichel itself, wisdom itself. There's a very, very deep lesson over here that we need to learn that is embedded in what Rabbeinu is saying here. The bracha of the seichel could become anything. What does it actually become? It becomes whatever you want it to become. What does it mean? A person, we spoke about it quite a few times, but I think this is definitely worth talking about again. The blessings, the life of a person is the biggest proof. It's the pudding, what the proof is of what the person wants. If you want to know what you really want, take a look at your life. If you want to know what kind of relationships you want to have with people, take a look at the relationships that you have. What are you saying? I don't want this. I want to have peace with everybody. I want everybody to like me. I want everybody to honor me. I want to have, plenty of possessions. I want to be in a position to give. I want to be in a position to to be gracious. I want to be in a position to receive and to give. As Nat King Cole says, to love and be loved in return. It's just like as if they know what love is. But that's us only parroting what ideally we would love things to be. But of course, we're only kidding ourselves. Because when a child is growing up with criticism and learns to identify himself as obviously somebody who deserves to be criticized, he needs to be criticized later on, because that criticism affirms for that child his own, way that he sees himself, his own self-image. When a person needs to be accepted, everybody needs to be accepted. But if a child, if we as children went through, especially in a very tender age, we went through rejection, rejection becomes a need. We don't want to be rejected, but we need to be rejected. So we will not marry someone who is gushing with all giving love. In fact, we are very likely to find such a mate extremely boring and unsatisfactory. Because there's something else that we need from that relationship that we're not getting. It's the rejection. On the other hand, we have another relationship where all we get is rejection. No, it's not going to go far, right? So we are going to find ourselves a mate that will accept us and reject us at the same time. If we live in constant fear of being betrayed, and we need to be embraced, and we need to be rejected. It's, quite a lot of apples to put into one basket. So we will get ourselves a mate that will embrace us, not too much, because we need to be rejected. But that mate would be somebody that is very loyal, probably very jealous too, but very loyal. Because then we will feel safe. We're both rejected, and there's no danger of being betrayed. And then you take a look, a person like this takes a look at his relationship or her relationship and goes like, I don't want this. Every time I open up my mouth, you have to one up me all the time. You have to be smarter than me. You have to be this than me. All the time you put me down. Whenever I try to come close to you, you push me away. Well, we figure that's not the kind of religion that we want. But the truth is that this is not the kind of relationship that we would ideally would want to want. But Lamaisa, that's exactly what we want. Our Ratzon shapes the bracha that we get exactly into the tools that will, to the situations that will affirm to us, that will fill what we really want, not what we claim to want. You find it by people that go through midlife crisis, and sometimes, they get divorced. I'm not talking about situations where, that it toxic to the point that it's just like, one party does everything, the other one does nothing. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that, that they get divorced and they have this dream. I'm going to get divorced and I'm going to get myself somebody out there that's going to accept me for who I am. I'm sure that you, two psychologists, have never heard that sentence ever in your life before, right? There's somebody out there that will want me they will accept me just the way I am. Is that what you really want? Of course not. Not only that, what about you wanting the other person the way they are? Can you do that? No, of course not. The way I am is I can't accept the other person the way they are. I want somebody that will accept this, that they will accept me, but I will not accept them. I mean, if you have any seichel, and most people not necessarily have that much seichel, but some do. If they get divorced, suddenly the harsh reality that there's nobody waiting for you out there. Especially not if a person is already in a later age, especially if they have children or whatever. It's not, listen, nobody's waiting for you out there. There's no welcoming committee. Maybe in the very beginning, you go to bars, you drink, I don't know what. And then that person goes through a few years of loneliness. And if that person has any seichel, that person will see that the mates that he or she is attracting are secondhand carbon copy of their first mate. As the famous line in that song goes, the sun is the same in a relative way, but you are older. How come? Why don't I attract all these, I don't know. You don't attract them because you don't want them. The bracha that comes to your life is being formed exactly the way that you want it, that the way that you really, really want it. Through tefillah, it is possible to change that. as Rabbeinu is saying. Through tefillah, it is possible to change that. But it doesn't come in a day. But the first thing that Rabbeinu says, what you should aim for, is birkas sechel. That sechel, that raw energy that comes, that wisdom from which everything else becomes, will retain its form as real sense, real wisdom in you, so that you will understand how to interpret your life and what to do with your life and how to get on with your life. B'ezrat Hashem, we will stop here. And hopefully, Bli Neder, we will meet tomorrow. I'm not sure. I'll just let me just stop this here.